Hello, dear aviators, you're listening to Rudder. I am your host Abdullah, and today we will be talking about gender in the cockpit, male and female pilots. Well, I'm gonna focus on female pilots today and the stereotypes, hardships, and the disproportionate gender inequality in aviation, and what hard time women have to become a pilot and scrutinies that they have when they become a pilot. Let's start off with some statistics. As of 2020, a mere 5% of all pilots are women, and 1.8% of all captains are women. In Turkey, for example, only less than 4%, 3.8% of all pilots are women. Even in United States, in UK, 5% and below of all pilots are women or are female. Why is that? Well, see, like some jobs, aviation, being pilot is a male-dominated job, and any female entering a male-dominated job, entering a male world, will have difficulties because of the popular perception of a certain job, the roles, and the social, cultural background. We will examine some of them. Historically, there have been pilots, female pilots, early on, like Amelia Earhart, we know of, and during the World War there have been women pilots. But the numbers are few. There are some discriminatory factors that come into play. We will examine them now. First is just the basic upbringing and gender roles that are defined by each culture. See, when parents have a child, if it's a boy, they will make a different color in the room, different toys, and when it's a girl, it's usually pink color and different colors and different toys. For boys, for example, they will buy cars, trucks, and airplanes. For girls, a kitchenette, like a salon, or combs, stuff like fancy stuff to play with, dolls, and so on. That is immediately imposing a specific role onto the child, saying to the girl that you should do these things, and to the boy that you should do these things, driving, flying, and so on. In the modern age, there has been some resistance to this idea. For example, a famous case is the case of Barbie dolls, the famous iconic Barbie dolls that were being produced as these fancy, super feminine figure that will just like not work, wear fancy things and go out with the handsome boy and just have leisure. But nowadays, we're having Barbie dolls as doctors, engineers, pilots, firefighters, and so on. This move for equality is going forward. So we're seeing more of those immediate moves from childhood with the toys that girls play with. And then we have the matter of education, that they're taught that they can be doing the same things, and women are seen more in leading positions. In all careers, no matter how progressive the country is, there are still those glass ceilings. Unfortunately, there are those glass ceilings for women that even though like legally or by mandate there is no limit to where they can reach, but there is that glass ceiling that they don't reach. And we know that the subject of in unequal paychecks is a very common thing nowadays. No matter what sector we look at, for the same job, women get paid less than men, which is not nice. Okay, so let's come back to aviation. See, like from the beginning, from its conception, aviation was a male-dominated job. The thing is that everything in aviation is made around men. Even the seat design of the aircraft, the ergonomics of aircraft, all the CRM factors, crew resource management, and the human performance factors in aviation are centered around the male physiology. Most likely, when you see a pilot going through a course, like if maybe today it is changing today, but traditionally, a pilot going through the pilot training, they wouldn't read anything about the menstruation cycle and how it would affect their fitness to fly, because it was not a concern. It is a male-dominated sector. So those are few things that we need to address. That aviation is molded around males, around men, from design to the teaching methods to the material that is taught to pilots. Now, we will come to some of those stereotypes faced by women. One is that, well, women are not fit to fly, they are more emotional, they cannot react in times of hardship, or they're not strong enough, or whatever nonsense that some would say. So, let's examine and address some of these myths as to why women should not fly. As we said, women entering any male-dominated area will, more likely than not, experience difficulties. Those who believe that women should not fly either for professional or recreational reasons have cited several arguments. Examples of this include that females allegedly have less strength than men do, that they are less intelligent, that they have a reduced innate flying ability, and that they are an emotional liability, to name just a few. First of all, there is no innate ability to fly because humans were not meant to fly. So let's examine the first one, the physical strength. One of the most sensitive subjects concerning women aviators, and indeed that of all women in the military and daily life, relates to the subject of physical strength and the dual standards associated with it. Well, so what? Yes, women are weaker than men physically. Like most males in all animal kingdom are stronger. So what? Why do women need this strength? They're not going to go for bodybuilding competition in aviation. Well, today to fly a plane, to be a pilot and to fly a plane, you don't need the strength. You don't need biceps and big chest and so on. Today, most of the things are automated, and even an Airbus doesn't have a yoke. It's just a side stick that you just, the concept of fly-by-wire, that everything is connected electronically, but just this small movement of your hand will send signals and deflect the control surfaces. So what strength is needed? Absolutely none. It is completely nonsense. Maybe in the 1950s, 1930s, when the aircraft were physically flown, yes, you needed the strength to move the control surfaces. But even then, you didn't need to be an athlete. And not all male pilots are super strong. So That one is right off the bat because it is not relevant whatsoever, the strength, because you don't need the strength to move the surfaces. Another one is called anthropometrics. The name is complicated, but it's about the size. On average, females are smaller physically than males across a broad number of parameters. Aircraft, and especially military aircraft, are designed with a certain range of pilot dimensions and weights and require pilots to fall within these design dimensions. Differences in dimensions between males and females include sitting height, bottom to knee, and buttock to heel, and functional reach. Women are not only smaller than men, but also have different proportions. For example, on average, females have a greater hip breadth by 5 centimeters, while males are wider across shoulders by approximately 2.5 centimeters. Because women need to bear children, they have greater width on the hip. So why does this matter? Aircraft cockpit design is mostly made for men, especially in military aircraft. The ejection seat, the seat, to be efficient for ejection, 95% of males meet the criteria, while only 40% of females meet that criteria in fighter jets. So that is one subject of the design of aircraft that is made with male pilots in mind and tested on those pilots, and the seats and the positions of the instruments, the eye reference is made for male pilots. Another one is called tolerance to thermal extremities or thermal extremes, like heat and cold. Well, cold conditions are often experienced in aviation, particularly in survival situations. Female tend to be better in cold environments. You've seen on a winter, for example, on a cold day, men are shivering while women are out with skirts. It is because women have a greater saturation of fat cells under the skin that gives them more protection from cold. With regard to heat, men have demonstrated a greater work capacity. Women, on the other hand, sweat less than men and therefore conserve their water store more efficiently. The negative side effect is that females have been shown to react more severely when exposed to hot environments. Little difference between the genders exists once acclimation has taken place. Some other factors are like hypoxia, that the difference is minimal between male and female. Motion sickness, again, is a condition where a pilot starts sweating, nausea, and vomiting in response to perception of real or apparent motion. It's widely accepted that motion sickness is caused by conflicting inputs between visual and vestibular systems. So there are different studies that show women are more susceptible to motion sickness than men, regardless of their age. A male to female ratio of 3:5 has been calculated, and this gender difference seems to be further aggravated by the use of oral contraceptives during the menstruation and pregnancy. Now we come to the most controversial topic of all: menstruation and menstrual disorders. Once a month, women of childbearing age normally menstruate for 4 to 6 days, and a condition called dysmenorrhea or menstrual cramps is most common symptom of menstrual cycle that could be mild, moderate, or severe that accompanies pain for women. Well, I cannot say much about that, but that's all I can say from studies only. The premenstrual cycle as well, or PMS, and the cycle itself is associated with certain things. One is the bleeding, one is the pain, and another is emotional disturbance. Something like called like a mild mood imbalance and a mild depression and irritability. That is used for the most common excuse as women not being fit to fly those certain times of the month, and they will not be functional. So what about the solutions? Exercise has been shown to reduce the menstrual cramps, and taking certain birth control pills and certain different solutions make this manageable. And today there is no limitation for women to become pilots. Another silly excuse that is given is pregnancy. That women might become pregnant and that is a liability for the company, and they would not be sure of their workforce, and if they become pregnant they cannot. That's true. Like, it's not good for the kid, for the child, for the fetus to be exposed to such changes and pressure very often. So those are some examples that are given as why women are not accepted widely in aviation. Another is the public image. Like, I remember vividly that once we were flying in an airliner, and we were flying, and then there was the voice of the captain, and it was a woman. And I remember vividly the passenger sitting next to me said, "Oh, God help us. These women cannot drive car and now they want to fly plane." But we got there safely. And hopefully, as an instructor working in flight schools, I see more and more women empowered and joining aviation. And I hope to see that trend become more common. One common aspect is women cannot date once they become a pilot, and they usually only date those in aviation itself, because once you go to a man and they ask you, "So what do you do?" and you say, "I'm a pilot," they will feel emasculated. You know, it's like they're less now. They have to feel that they're better than the woman, or earn more, or have a higher status in society. But, well, that shouldn't stop any woman from becoming pilot. So that's my 2 cents on this subject. Until the next time, over and out.